In lesson 6.2.1, they start out with an introduction that it says you've probably noticed that the world is full of patterns. Mathematics can be used to describe those patterns. And then they use a bunch of examples from science and how science uses patterns in order to describe what's happening. And they do that with a formula or rule. So for example, remember when we did the ramps experiment? And we learned that the heavier the ball, the faster that it rolled down the ramp. That relationship can be written in mathematics in a number sense, where we're using the mass of the ball and how high the ramp is to equal how fast it moves. We do that by using variables. For example, here's one. Speed equals the distance divided by the amount of time it took. Not exactly what we did with the ramps, but kind of close. With variables, that would look like this. D divided by T. Then we could use whatever numbers we wanted in order to figure out speed. So pretending that it was like 100 miles in 60 minutes or whatever. Using that would figure out our speed. That would be called a formula. And we use them all the time in science, but we also use them in math. Today's goal is to compare 3 different formulas. All of them are for trapezoids. Now, so far, we've kind of just muddled our way through finding the area of a trapezoid. We've maybe had to draw out like 2 of the trapezoids. It's been a lot of work. By using a formula, we can speed that process up. So in your books, those are the 3 formulas we're going to be playing around with today. We're going to use all 3 of them to calculate the area of a trapezoid. By the end, we're going to see if those 3 rules or formulas are equivalent or not. Remember, to know if something's equivalent, it means that at the end, the answer that we get, as long as we're using the same variables, should be the same. So before I send you off into that, I want to do a quick refresher of order of operations, because we're going to need that really importantly for today. And that's really what the lesson is kind of trying to get at through these formulas, is order of operations. So let me just give a couple quick examples, so that way when you get into the lesson, you're not lost. Here's the first one. Order of operations says do parentheses or groups first. So that's like parentheses or absolute value lines. Exponents, which is these little guys. Multiplication and division. And then subtraction and addition. So I see no groupings here. I see no exponents here, so I'm just straight to multiplication, division, and then adding and subtracting. I see I've got a multiplication and a division problem here. When there's more than one, I just go straight in order. So here I go. Give myself some room. This is how I want you to show your work as well. Written it all out. Now I'm going to do one step. And then I'm going to rewrite everything else. This is what we worked on in the boosters. Now I would do the division. Rewrite everything else. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now this part, still rewriting it. I know you can do it in your head. That's not what I want. Every step. There we go. That's order of operations. Now let's step it up a notch with a more difficult example, like this one. Okay, we've got parentheses going on. We've got fractions going on. What's happening? Well, groupings first. That'd be this section. 5 plus 7 is 12. I'm going to leave them in those parentheses because I know that 1/3 and then parentheses, that actually means multiply in between. So whether you leave it in parentheses or you just write a multiply sign, either one is totally fine. Now I need to do my multiplication. I like to put it over 1, remember? So I can do 1 times 12 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. And if I simplify that, 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, I got 4 holes that go into 12, so that is my answer. So only thing really different, we had the grouping symbol, so we had to do that first. And we had to remember that when we had a number outside of the parentheses, that means to multiply. One more, even trickier. Look at this thing. Okay, what is happening here? We've got addition, we've got a big old fraction, and that fraction has things on top of it. What is happening? Well, remember that the first part is groupings. That's parentheses, absolute value lines, and believe it or not, fraction lines are grouping symbols. They separate everything up on the top versus everything on the bottom. So we actually have a grouping symbol here that needs to be taken care of first. It's right here, the 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 would be 1. I'm going to copy everything else. Now that I've done that grouping, I can just add. I only have 2 things left. 5 plus 1/2 is 5 1/2. If I had anything else going on, let's pretend, let's see. It was like this. 4 times 5. I would have done my grouping. Then I would have done my multiplication. Then I would have done my addition. So just seeing that part there is new. The rest of it was similar. You've seen all of that already. Those 3 things are going to come in handy as you go through the lesson today. Seeing those order of operations beforehand, I hope helps. They're also going to talk about terms today. Terms are separated with addition or subtraction. As you go through, pay really close attention to the terms part of it because that's something that we're going to be focusing on in the future, and this is a good introduction. So as a wrap up, we've got a lot going on in this lesson today. We're finding area of a trapezoid. We're learning about formulas. We're focusing on order of operations within those formulas. And we're going to learn a new word, terms. That's a lot going on in these 3 problems. Take your time. At the end, make sure you watch the closure video and listen to everything just to make sure you've gotten what you needed to out of this lesson. That's it. Adios.